Hi there. Welcome to the Paula Fiscal Show. Today we have a very special guest, Archbishop Gregory Richardson, who is going to share with us some of the tips that he has regarding his Good News Show. Mr. Richardson, I understand that you have been in the business for over 30 years. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about how you broke into this industry?
Yes, first of all, let me say, Ms. Fiscal, you're just the most, and I know that those out there watching will really tune into your show and get some good information, because I learned from people as yourself. And how did this happen? Well, when we first got started with public access television, it was what we call the First Amendment right, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech was if you looked at the movie Selma, some of the other things that are still happening today, the African American voice was shut out of the FCC, television, radio, and print. And what public access did was radio came first, because it gave African Americans Motown, where people could hear their own artists. And then it gave them people like Red Fox, where people could actually listen to their own comedians, and they were able to promote their art and things of that nature. Then it kind of excelled to public access television after a while, because the America we know was still kind of behind the times, and they did not really have any information for the community. It was always negative. It was always killing. It was always beating. Similar to what it is today. So they said, you know, we need to get our message out to our communities. And of course, the churches basically were where a lot of the ministers that wanted communities to have a voice used radio and broadcast. You can see today they have a lot of faith congregational Sunday prayer on radio. And then it came to point. Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the faith-based community. And I notice that you're one of the leaders in that community, and that you cover quite a bit of the services that are held, the entertaining mechanisms that are used, and the way to get the word out. So is this something that was always in the back of your mind when you started your shows, to spread the word?
Absolutely correct. That was the reason, because when you turn on the regular television, you don't have anything. You had Soul Train on Saturdays, but pretty much it. And it wasn't anything for the communities to look at. I used to go to community meetings. I used to see the regular media there. I says, wow, all these cameras are here. Everybody from out of town's here. None of us are here. None of our community leaders were there. None of the African American community was there. I said, what is going on? And you got people right in your own neighborhood bringing a lot of money, a lot of zeros, a lot of capital, a lot of information, deadlines to apply for this, new applications for housing, job creation, daycare, and no one was getting anything from the media, not even the Chronicle or any of these other papers at that time were doing anything. So I said, you know what? It's time to inform the community of what's going on around the corner from them.
Well, you know, the first time that I met you was in City Hall. At that time, I was the administrative assistant for Carol Ruth Silver from District 6. And I will tell you one thing. I remember distinctly what you told me. You said that my job was to get the word out as to what was going on in our communities, and that my responsibility was to make sure that when the word did get out, it was in a format that our Latinos and your African Americans would understand. And that is not just radio, but particularly TV. And when you did all of those TV programs and covered the Board of Supervisors, my best impression of you was that you were always very articulate, very, very clear, and you made sure that when you spoke to the community that we got the right word. So tell me a little bit about how the process was that you developed to get to that point.
Well, you're absolutely right. For instance, when the civic department, I love government. Government is something that I think is power for the people. To learn how to use access to government is what we were bringing to the people. Growing up in the Haight-Ashbury, we understood, we were trained by many folks on how to basically keep people accountable. So we knew that by covering City Hall like a blanket, for instance, that nothing was going to get by us. We were going to follow supervisors. They have meetings in the communities. Back then, it was all supervisors were all over San Francisco. It just wasn't one district or another district. So it was very important for, it was much, much more better, from my opinion, when everybody had to work together. So we started to focus in more on the mayors because they were the bread, the cream of the crop. Everywhere the mayors went, that's where today you can see GTV. But I was GTV. I created GTV. There was no GTV following the mayor around, following the supervisors around, showing the community what they're doing. It was like everybody was hiding information from the community, and I put them on the spot. They got tired of me because when there was a notice that went out, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development was going to be in town. And of course, everybody in housing, or everybody that was community-based organizations were going to be applying for grants through the HUD process. They wanted to meet the secretary themselves. So guess what? The mayor makes the announcements. I find out where the meeting is. I let the community know. And shortly after that, once the community knows, they begin to start to ask questions about what's going on, when is this going to happen, and we want to be a part of it. So we actually tied government here into community to make them more aware of what the actions that the city and county of San Francisco was doing. So now you find GTV, like I say, you find the Board of Supervisors meetings being covered. That wasn't happening. The Board of Supervisors meeting might have been on the radio by KPOO, which is also public television, but there wasn't much in the fact of knowing I'm a disabled person, I really don't feel good today, or it's wet outside, and I wanted to go to this meeting, and how can I find out about it? Well, call the supervisors, call the chief clerk. You couldn't get anywhere. So I made it a point to find out and then go to that meeting and then air it on television. And now we have C-SPAN, because C-SPAN at that time wasn't in existence. It did not exist. Also, the California channel with the government affairs. We used to cover Sacramento, go way up there. We'd go down to LA, go down there. We would cover the entire Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and show people what and how government was partnering with these huge corporations, creating wealth and jobs to make sure that the people could understand this is how we do it together. And that's really what it was all about to me.
I do recall that you did a very, very good job of spreading the information, for example, in 2000 regarding the Healthy Families Program.
Yes, you know, and that was a good person that brought me into that fold. Her name was Paula Fiscal, who's the host of this show. And from her working with that particular program, I think she might have written it. It is now called National Health Care. Believe it or not, Paula Fiscal along with healthy families and a host of hospitals, are now implementing health clinic, healthy families in every part of San Francisco. Amazing. I never knew that that was going to happen. And then the model you made was picked up by Obamacare. Now
Yes, health.
across the nation.
Healthcare, and for us, that's a big deal. It's a real big deal for our communities, your community, my community, and just as a note here, Obamacare is more than just Obamacare. It's care for ourselves. And when he was elected, we understood that it was going to be a first. We understood that there were going to be some changes made, and we were willing to go along with these changes, and that's why we elected him. But to get back to the career of Gregory Richardson on the Paula Fiscal Show, we want to go back and get a few more tips and exposés on other activities and other issues going on right now in San Francisco.
Well, high tech is it. Twitter's down the street. Let me tell you. Google's right down the street. Let me say. Salesforce is right down the street. These industries that are now in San Francisco reminds me when Mayor Woolley Brown came onto the television show at public television and sat in the seat, just like I'm doing. And we brought on also now Mayor Ed Lee, who was the purchasing director for the city and county of San Francisco. And I saw a fit with the Chamber of Commerce. I said, if we can hook up the Chamber of Commerce with the city and county Black Chamber of Commerce, I used to work with Mr. Earl White, so inspirational in my life. So we did that, and I also called in that day, 3Com was a member of the Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce. So what happened was, get this, we had the purchaser of San Francisco at the time, Mayor Ed Lee. We also had the CEO of the Silicon Valley, 3Com and Chamber, in the same room at the same time. And though I had no idea, all I know is that the new stadium was called 3Com Park. Isn't that amazing? And that happened sometime afterwards. And I was just totally shocked. I didn't get a point, though, but I'm just kidding. But now today, this is the same thing. See, we knew when we worked with the Minority Business Development Agency, was an agency most people don't realize that was set up by Richard Nixon. And this agency was ran by Arthur Fletcher. Arthur Fletcher hooked me up with the Minority Business Development Agency, who wrote a business plan for me. I wrote a business plan on communications, and actually similar to what you see some of the Google people doing or some of the Facebook people doing. Same plan. We wrote the same exact plan. We knew that technology was the future. Why? Because space is one frontier where satellites were turned over to the United States businesses, such as Google, such as Salesforce, such as Twitter. And these particular satellites would be geared up to have information job opportunities. See, I looked at the information for the public. Minority communities were not being served. We could get the word out. Now here comes the internet. Now the internet has really grown into a $1 trillion business. So we knew back then that our communities of color would be able to look at kindergarten, junior high school, all the way through high school and take these math and science courses because they were entering welfare to work. And how can you got so many years to do it. So we put together that little plan of how once you graduate, there are no jobs. There are no jobs when you've got to pay your student loan. You're looking for a job. Next thing you know, you got bad credit and you're screwed up and you're messed up and you sometime on the street and you never recover. So we had a way to do it. We were going to hook up the education system with these companies in the tech world to make our young educated college grads, or even if you didn't have a college grad, you can take up a trade in graphics. You can do graphics. You can do editing. You can do camera work. You can do lighting. You can do advertising. These commodities today with these jobs, we knew were coming.
We knew they were coming. We did. We knew those jobs were coming. Yesterday, just as an addition and as a note here, I visited the Google campus in Mountain View, and I met with a couple of people that had indicated that they had been actively recruited. Now, these were young African American males and females. And I said, tell me how many, or what the percentage point is of the minorities in Google. Well, they said it was like 2%. And I said, well, how about Latinos? They said there was a little higher percentage there. But the majority of people that are working in Google are males and Asian males, so that they know that there's a lot of work yet to be done in recruitment. One of them asked me, well, where do you think we should start? And I said, I believe you need to start in preschool, because recruiting our youngest and brightest as they graduate from high school is not taking place. You're grabbing the people as they're graduating from the universities. And these are people that have gotten there already on their own and had not even considered working with you. But now they are considering working with you, so that we have to start at a younger age in order to recruit. So once again, we're here with Gregory Richardson, Archbishop Gregory Richardson, who's been one of my mentors in San Francisco. So I want to thank him very much for joining us. And if you can give us a few closing remarks on other tips you might give to aspiring broadcasters.
Remember that the First Amendment right is your right to freedom of speech, to think for yourself, to ask questions to others, to get answers. That's what public television is all about. We as Americans understand that we are the people of the United States that work together in conjunction with all states and human life to make the world a better place. So when you get an opportunity to learn, when you get an opportunity, finish school. Don't be a couch potato. The main thing for young people that may hear this, listen to your parents. And for those that have husbands and wives, listen to your wife. She is really a great asset for you to have, which you may not really realize as time goes by. And your children will watch you and look at you. Have a direction for your children. Make sure you send them to the right schools. It's not a bad idea to save when a child is born and buy a life insurance policy when they're born. And then use that policy by 2 or 3 to cash it in when they need a car when they graduate from high school, to cash it in when they want to go to school. Use these particular avenues to teach financial literacy, because financial illiteracy is a problem that has plagued our nation's communities for many, many years. Public housing, President London Breed came from there. What we have to remember is that that was probably walking into hell for a heavenly cause. Crime, drugs, prostitution, trafficking, whatever you want to call, came through there. But if you live in a place like that, just go to school, stay in your house, do your homework, participate in your boys' clubs, Girl Scouts, and young ladies have been left out of the loop. Our future, to me, depends on the woman, the young woman. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Don't hang out with the crowd. Hang out with a nerd. Go to places where people are learning. Find yourself in entrepreneurship. Create something to do. This is a great opportunity to live in this country Many people come from many, many places all over the world and find themselves very successful. And you that have grown up here can do it too. And Miss Physical, let me tell you something. Tune into her show because she is a dream come true. We are like this when I see her. So she's just like a little UFO that's been dropped off. And we're fortunate to have people like that. And I
Well,
want to thank
you so much, Reverend Gregory Richardson. And on that note, I want to close and give you a few of the coming topics that we're going to be discussing on this show. The top of the list, of course, is financial literacy. So we will be having some special guests to talk about that issue. We will also be talking about education and housing. So for the housing aspect in San Francisco, as we all know, it's very, very difficult to find a place to live, and it's even more difficult to be able to pay the rent once you find the place to live. So we will be talking about some of those issues, and again, we want to thank Gregory Richardson for sharing some of the back stories and back issues regarding his Good News show in San Francisco. And I want to close and wish you all a very, very good Black History Month. And thank you once again for joining us.
And thank you for having us.